So, getting ready to remove the engine of my 1960 Studebaker. The hood's been removed, the battery's been taken out, the big fans that were in front of the radiator, they've been removed. The radiator is now disconnected and will be removed. And from there, a few other pipes, the engine mounts and the gearbox, and we'll be ready to pull the engine out. The reason the engine is coming out is that a couple of weeks ago I came back from a nice little drive, and when it was idling there was kind of an unfamiliar noise. I don't want to call it a knock. I know what a knock is, like a top end knock. It wasn't a top end knock, but there was a slight metallic sort of sound, particularly when it was idling. It was still revving okay, but it was also running a bit rough, almost like it was a cylinder down. A friend of my father's who rebuilds engines professionally, he listened to it and said really the only thing to do is to take the engine out. So that's brought me to where I am now. The engine is pretty well disconnected, and I'm hoping that the engine doesn't need a whole stack of machining, as that gets very expensive and can be time consuming. I'm lucky, when I bought this engine, the guy that had the engine for about 40 years, and he'd collected lots and lots and lots of parts over the years. And when I bought the car, I got a huge amount of parts, seriously a ridiculous amount of parts. Here, for example, is a new camshaft. Now it's got a tiny little bit of surface rust, but all the edges here, they all look pretty good. I believe that this may be able to be put in if there's anything wrong with the cam that I have in the old baby. But yeah, when I bought the engine, I got a huge amount of parts, and this is just one of many boxes of goodies that I got, even old gaskets and all sorts of crazy stuff, including a lot of original Studebaker parts still in the original boxes. Quite amazing, really. So I got, when I picked the car up, I picked it up from Tasmania. That's the island at the bottom of Australia, for those of you not local. I'm in Victoria. So I went down, I looked at the car, fell in love with it, bought it, drove it back 4 hours up the Midland Highway and ferried it back to Melbourne. And even though this is a coupe, as you know, these American cars, they're big. It's got a 4-body boot and still a really good back seat. When I came back, the car was completely filled with parts. I had a brand new windscreen in the box, sitting in the passenger seat next to me. I had all the back seat completely filled with boxes, and the boot was also completely filled with boxes and boxes and boxes of parts. The thing, as I do a tidy up of this car, I'm not doing a full restoration. The car mechanically, basically, is really good. And it's been kept and built as an everyday driver. The guy I bought it from, who was an ex-policeman, he had this car for 40 years and kept it as basically an everyday driver. So keeping it as a show car or a Sunday driver wasn't what he wanted, and it's not actually what I wanted either. But as part of doing my little freshen up, there's a number of places where you can see the paint is crazed. I don't think it was originally a very good coat of paint when he repainted it. You can see it's the top surfaces. Our Australian sun is really harsh. The UV is extreme. So it's mainly the top surfaces. You can see along the front fender here on top, but also particularly on the roof, there's a few areas of cracking, and in the middle here we can see a big patch. The undercoat is still actually pretty good. I think it either wasn't prepared properly, or the paint that they put on perhaps wasn't done quite correctly. So if we come around the other side, you can see I've started to give it a sand back. I'm going to take as much of the yellow paint as I can off, and in these areas that were deeper, I'm just feathering it out. And so at the moment it's fairly smooth. It's looking okay. I've only done this little corner here, so the roof is the main area to focus on at the moment for me, and that's going to be done a different color. I'm going to do it an ivory white, and keep the color as it is at the moment. So yeah, again, I must stress, this is the first time I've done a project like this. I've done a little bit of work on cars, more modern cars, that I've had an occasional bit of paneling and stuff, but this is the first time I've done anything near major like this. So it is a little bit overwhelming if you're doing it yourself for the first time, but it's also going to be, I would imagine, very rewarding. So thanks for having a look, and I'll keep you updated.